The boxing world is buzzing with anticipation and debate following Moses Itauma's stunning knockout victory over Dillian Whyte, a performance that has thrust the 20-year-old heavyweight prospect into the spotlight. The conversation now centers on what lies ahead for Itauma, with many speculating about a potential showdown with Oleksandr Usyk, one of the most accomplished and revered heavyweights of the modern era. The idea of a clash between the young, explosive Itauma and the seasoned, masterful Usyk has ignited excitement among fans and analysts alike, but it has also sparked a broader discussion about whether such a fight is premature for the rising star. The narrative surrounding this potential matchup is layered with questions about experience, skill, timing, and the strategic decisions that could shape Itauma's career trajectory. Oleksandr Usyk, fresh off a grueling training camp and a recent victory, has expressed a need for rest and reflection before deciding his next move. After dedicating 3.5 months to intense preparation, away from his family and children, Usyk is understandably fatigued. He spoke candidly about his desire to return home, take a break, and carefully consider his next opponent. The Ukrainian champion, widely regarded as one of the greatest heavyweights of his time, is loved not only in his homeland but also by fans in the UK, where his performances have earned him a devoted following. Usyk's comments reflect a fighter who has earned the right to dictate his career path, having faced and defeated some of the division's most formidable names. Yet, the mention of a potential fight with Itauma, fueled by a tweet that caught the attention of fans, has added intrigue to his future plans. Usyk acknowledged the tweet but remained non-committal, emphasizing that he needs time to think about what comes next. Itauma, on the other hand, is brimming with confidence. At just 20 years old, he believes his skill set surpasses even that of Usyk, a bold claim that has stirred debate within the boxing community. Itauma points to his speed, power, and composure in the ring as evidence of his potential to compete at the highest level. However, he also acknowledges a critical gap in his experience. He has yet to be tested in the later rounds of a fight. Itauma recognizes that Usyk's ability to excel in prolonged battles, thanks to his exceptional ring intelligence and endurance, could pose a significant challenge. To address this, Itauma and his team are focused on securing fights that will allow him to gain experience in longer bouts, preparing him for the demands of facing a fighter of Usyk's caliber. This self-awareness, coupled with his ambition, highlights Itauma's potential as a future star, but it also underscores the risks of rushing into a fight with a veteran like Usyk. The boxing world's reaction to Itauma's knockout of Dillian Whyte has been mixed. Some, like Anthony "Pretty Boy" Taylor, have questioned the legitimacy of the victory, suggesting that Whyte, who was inactive and past his prime, may have taken a dive. Taylor's skepticism reflects a broader sentiment among some fans and analysts who believe that Itauma's win, while impressive, does not yet prove he is ready to face elite competition. Whyte, at 38 years old and with limited recent activity, was not the same fighter who once challenged top heavyweights. Critics argue that Itauma's performance, though dominant, was against an opponent who was not at his peak, and thus, it may not be a reliable indicator of how he would fare against a fighter like Usyk, who is known for his adaptability and mastery in the ring. The idea of a Usyk-Itauma fight has been championed by Turki Alışık, a prominent figure in boxing who has played a significant role in organizing major events in Saudi Arabia. Alışık envisions the matchup as a classic battle between an old lion and a young lion, pitting Usyk's experience and technical prowess against Itauma's youth, hunger, and raw power. This narrative has captured the imagination of fans, who are drawn to the drama of generational clashes in boxing. The prospect of a southpaw versus southpaw encounter adds another layer of intrigue, as both fighters share a similar stance, which could lead to a tactical chess match in the ring. Alışık's influence in the sport, combined with his financial backing, makes the fight a realistic possibility, provided both camps can agree on terms. However, the decision ultimately rests with Usyk, who has the stature and leverage to choose his opponents carefully. Despite the excitement surrounding the potential fight, many analysts caution against rushing Itauma into such a high-stakes matchup. They point to Usyk's extensive resume, which includes victories over top heavyweights and a reputation for outsmarting opponents with his movement, combinations, and ability to adjust mid-fight. Usyk's physical attributes, including his 6 feet 3 inches height and 78-inch reach, make him a formidable challenge, even for a physically imposing fighter like Itauma, who is reportedly larger. Analysts argue that Itauma, with only 13 professional fights, would benefit from facing opponents closer to his own level of experience before taking on a generational talent like Usyk. Names like Joseph Parker and other active contenders have been floated as more suitable next steps for Itauma, offering him the opportunity to build his skills and endurance without the immediate risk of facing a fighter of Usyk's caliber. Joseph Parker, the interim WBO champion, has emerged as a key figure in this discussion. Parker, who has faced Usyk in the past and understands the challenges of competing against him, believes that any fight with Itauma would depend on Usyk's readiness and willingness to return to the ring. Parker's own career trajectory, marked by battles against top heavyweights, makes him a compelling potential opponent for Itauma. His resilience and ability to emerge victorious in grueling fights have earned him comparisons to a battle-hardened warrior, and many believe a fight with Parker would provide Itauma with the kind of test he needs to prepare for elite competition. Parker himself has expressed admiration for Itauma's explosive performance against Whyte, but he stops short of endorsing an immediate fight with Usyk, emphasizing that the timing must be right for both fighters. Trainer Ben Davidson offers a different perspective, viewing a Usyk-Itauma fight as a unique opportunity for both men. Davidson argues that while Usyk is the more experienced fighter, he has never faced someone with Itauma's specific combination of speed, power, and fearlessness. This unpredictability could make the fight intriguing, as it would force Usyk to adapt to a new type of challenge. Davidson sees the matchup as a potential win-win, with Itauma gaining invaluable experience and Usyk facing a fresh test that could push him into uncharted territory. However, this view is not shared by all. Derek Chisora, a veteran of the heavyweight division, has been vocal in advising Itauma to avoid Usyk for now. Chisora believes that Itauma, still early in his career, should focus on building his resume against active contenders rather than chasing fights with established legends. Chisora's own experiences against top heavyweights inform his perspective, as he understands the dangers of rushing into high-profile fights without sufficient preparation. Promoter Frank Warren also weighs in, expressing enthusiasm for a Usyk-Itauma fight but emphasizing the need for careful planning. Warren acknowledges Oleksandr's influence and the appeal of the matchup, but he stresses that no decisions have been finalized. The involvement of sanctioning bodies, such as the WBO, adds another layer of complexity. The WBO has reportedly granted Usyk an extension due to an injury, which could delay any mandatory defenses against contenders like Parker. If Usyk were to vacate his title, it could open the door for Itauma to fight for a vacant belt, potentially against another rising contender like Filip Hrgovic. These moving parts highlight the intricate negotiations and strategic considerations that will shape Itauma's next steps. Eddie Hearn, another prominent promoter, has praised Itauma's performance against Whyte while expressing sympathy for the veteran, who suffered a devastating knockout. Hearn believes that Whyte's inactivity and age made him a poor matchup for the younger, more dynamic Itauma. While Hearn sees Itauma as a special talent, he agrees with the consensus that an immediate fight with Usyk would be premature. Instead, he advocates for a measured approach, allowing Itauma to build on his victory with fights against other contenders before taking on a champion of Usyk's stature. Hearn's perspective reflects a broader sentiment in the boxing community. While Itauma's potential is undeniable, his development must be carefully managed to ensure long-term success. Talksport analysts have echoed these concerns, noting that Itauma's win over Whyte, while impressive, does not fully answer questions about his ability to compete in the later rounds or against a fighter with Usyk's ring IQ. They suggest that a fight with Parker or another established heavyweight would provide a better gauge of Itauma's readiness for elite competition. The analysts also point to the historical precedent of young talents being tested by more experienced opponents, citing examples like Nassim Hamed and Frank Bruno. They argue that Itauma, for all his speed and precision, has yet to face the kind of adversity that comes with fighting a seasoned champion. Until he proves himself in those situations, questions about his readiness for Usyk will persist. Despite these reservations, there is no denying Itauma's star power. His knockout of Whyte was not just a victory but a statement, showcasing his speed, composure, and devastating punching power. At 20 years old, Itauma has already established himself as one of the most exciting prospects in the heavyweight division. Fans and pundits are captivated by his potential, with some comparing his speed to that of a young Mike Tyson, albeit in a different era. Itauma's confidence, coupled with his cerebral approach to the sport, sets him apart as a fighter who could one day dominate the division. Whether he faces Usyk next or takes a more gradual path, Itauma's future is bright, and his journey is one that boxing fans will be watching closely. The debate over Itauma's next move encapsulates the broader dynamics of boxing, where ambition, experience, and timing collide. For Usyk, the decision is about balancing his legacy with his physical and mental well-being after years of grueling battles. For Itauma, it's about proving that his confidence is backed by the skills and resilience needed to compete at the highest level. As the boxing world awaits the next chapter, one thing is certain: Moses Itauma has arrived, and his presence is already reshaping the heavyweight landscape. Whether he faces Usyk sooner or later, the young lion's roar is impossible to ignore.